Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. I am back again. It has been, what is this? March? It was March last time I was live. April, May, June, July, August, September, October. 7 months. It's been 7 months since I read a chapter of my book, Pimpette Chronicles, and it's a rainy day in Detroit. And it's just one of those slow Sundays. And I said, why not? I'm just going to get on here and continue reading. And I need to get through this book. I have just a little bit left. So here's the book. Got like this much more to go. If you didn't catch any of the other readings, they are available on my YouTube channel. And it's under, what is the name of this? Oh, it's under the Cinematic Griot Collective. So if you go on there, you can check out the other videos. I don't know why people get on here and then they decide they want to fix their hair, but I'm one of those people. So I'm fixing my hair. But anyway, I love rainy days. I don't have to be out in the street every day, and I get out enough. So I'm just enjoying this time. And I just thought I'd take this time to be productive. I did a lot today. I gave the dog a bath. I mopped through the whole house, which I do pretty much every 3 days. I mop the floors all the way through my house. And did my laundry, washed dishes, ran some errands, and it's only, I should say, 4:23. So that's a very productive Sunday. So now I am going to take this opportunity because I did not plan on going out this weekend. I don't think I'm going out tonight, even though I'm dressed. I don't think I need to go back out. So I'm just going to read this and probably get some more writing done. So my goal is to have book 2 done by the summer of 2025. And that book is going to be somewhat different from this book. This book is more of a guide. I think book 2 I would call more more like advice. So it's more advice and things like that. I guess it is still kind of a guide, but we just have to wait and see how it transforms as I begin the writing process. So right now I'm just putting together my chapters and my notes. I'm gonna have a few classes that I want to take to implement into the book. I'm not gonna put any, spoilers out there. So there's some classes that are coming up that I'm going to take in preparation of my book. So yeah, it's fun and I'm loving the way that it's coming together. So with that being said, we're going to continue on chapter 4 and we're going to discuss what is a successful relationship. Just one moment here. Let me see something. Da, da, da. I want to see how this looks on Facebook because I put it. Okay, I see it. I don't know how that works. But anyway, what is a successful relationship? In the past, people viewed a successful relationship as one where both parties stay together through good times and bad. Generations ago, women were taught that love endures, which meant that they would go through a series of trials and pains that were often laid out by the person who was supposed to love them. They were taught that most men could not control their urges and that it was natural for them to sow their oats. Even in current times, it is not uncommon for men to intentionally put women through a sequence of tests, which sometimes involve other women, with marriage to them being the reward. Some of these women knowingly accept the bad behavior for years, hoping he would pick her in the end. That's where the pick me concept comes from. The men often chose the one who proved that she would be there through thick and thin, even when infidelity and disrespect were a part of the package. I even knew a man who had behaved this way, married the woman who accepted the bad behavior, and then could not understand why she completely changed once she had a ring on her finger. This is what we call the setup. There's a special type of woman who is willing to sit on a pot for years and never take a shit just to get the man she wants. She knows that the other women will eventually lose interest or grow tired of the back and forth. Because so many men harbor what some may consider abandonment issues from either an unresolved trauma in their family life or their first heartbreak, he may not recognize that this is why the pick-me chick is so appealing. Men who suffer from this type of damage look for women who are willing to do anything to prove to them that they will stay. They look for this safety, and when the relationship goes sour, which they usually do, they don't understand why she is tripping since she won the prize. For one thing, sir, she probably has an array of pent-up anger for all those times you made her cry, embarrassed, or disrespected her. In the end, no amount of stating, "That's my wife," will ever make up for the things he may have done to her over the years. Make no mistake, most women can become vengeful, resentful creatures to the core. Even those who seem timid and meek will wait patiently to get their revenge on one who has continually crossed her. Where she once sat quietly at the family functions while his sister's friend, whom he was fucking, was just inches away, she's now cursing out the sister's friend, the sister, the cat, the dog, and everybody who has been talking shit about her for years. Remember, some forgive, but not everyone forgets. Now, this husband has to support all of her shenanigans because it is long overdue and he knows it. He is just happy when her wrath is focused on others instead of him. He may even join in on the drama because he knows this will win her approval, and in no way does he want her to leave. Believe me when I say men desire stability and familiarity above all things, even more so than love. Men are typically lazy when it comes to finding a mate, and they are most likely to try to look for a way to make a relationship work with the woman they have and know. This is also why so many men nowadays have side chicks. The wives often won't or rarely sleep with their husbands because after all the disappointments over the years, it becomes hard for her to even be attracted to him. Have you ever become so disappointed in a lover that you could no longer look them in the eyes? It's like you are only able to see past them and no longer see them. It is often said that you cannot expect the same love after you have continuously broken a heart. Personally, if you know you have done some major damage, hold your horses. Why is page turning? I think it is better if you just start anew with another person, take those lessons and run. The reality is that most men will not leave their wives even when they are miserable. Some will spend the rest of their days trying to undo the past in hopes that somehow he will make her happy and she will forget. Yes, everyone is aware of the bull granddaddy put granny through and all those outside babies in the streets. This is also why we see those types of older men constantly praising their wives. They know their dicks don't work, and it is next to impossible to get a new woman on board a sinking ship. Many of our ancestors stayed in miserable or unfulfilling relationships for various reasons, including familiarity, fear of the unknown, finances, health issues, familial ties, children, or simply because they had no desire to start over. So the question is it better to be with the devil you know than the devil you do not? I guess it depends on the type of life you want and whether or not happiness and peace are important. Excuse me. I decided to have a little Chardonnay tonight. Another problem with the woman who will accept anything in a relationship to get the man is that those women are generally not the type that will also encourage him to meet his greatest potential. The pick me types are well suited for men with no real ambition, drive, or plans for the future. These men know that she will never demand much from him, so there is little chance that he will disappoint her. Talk about low expectations. We often hear that a man's success is determined by the type of woman he marries, which is true. But oh, if it only worked both ways. It has been my experience that most men hinder a woman's growth. Our success has very little to do with whether or not he is there cheering us on. Black women, in particular, have been taught from childhood to be independent and work hard. Many of us did not grow up with Many of us did not grow up where we saw the man making it easier for the mothers. Instead, we were likely exposed to the opposite. Everyone goes into a relationship hoping they are successful together, but who determines what success looks like? I was once married to a decent man, and I remember how folks responded upon finding out that we had divorced. Some even told me how sorry they were. It always confused me because our divorce was a mutual decision that did not require a lawyer's involvement, and I was happy it was over. I was once even told that he and I were the only two people who had parted ways maturely without bashing each other that my relatives had ever witnessed. I'm not saying that we didn't have our fair share of arguments, but at this stage in life, I had already mastered the skill of developing an exit strategy. Even when we argued, I maintained a certain level of respect and distance, making it nearly impossible for him to have anything negative to say or do to me. I waited until we were completely separated before I started dating and never once cheated while in the relationship. The, the deterioration of our relationship had more to do with our inability to discuss problems maturely and come to a solution as a team. We spent many great years together, and when our relationship was no longer beneficial to us both, we ended it. To me, that was a successful relationship. There was no anger. There was no, oh, he did this to me or she did that to me. We had simply come to the end of the road for many reasons, which both of us at the time did not feel were worth working to remediate. He did not leave me with scars or bruises, neither internal or external, and I walked away wiser and more confident in my ability to survive and assert my needs in the next relationship. Somewhere in time, people started feeling like they had to make the other person out to be a villain in order to exit a relationship. Some think that a breakup gives them the right to become an assassin of the other person's character. We often get caught up in trying to make ourselves look innocent while attempting to make the other person look bad. Honestly, many of us worry entirely too much about what people outside the relationship think about our lives and partners. It takes two people to make or break a relationship, and there really is cause and effect for everything we do. Breakups do not have to be dramatic endings every time you sever a relationship. Sometimes you can dip out when you know in your heart is simply time to go. A successful relationship in the end can include the following and more. Let me slow down. I am a very fast reader, and I forget that when I'm reading out loud, I need to slow down a little bit. So here's a list of things that a successful relationship can include. You two are dedicated to maintaining and meeting each other's needs, whether emotional or sexual. You are dedicated to being together to the end or until you are both unable to meet each other's needs. You have developed a goal together, and you are both dedicated to seeing it achieved. You two have evolved in different ways, and now at this stage in your lives, you feel it would be best to separate. Your decision most likely has nothing to do with an outside force or person. But if it does, you are honest and respectful with your partner and will not do anything to destroy their trust. You do not cause harm to the other person's reputation and vice versa upon the exit. You two have children together, and the main objective is to ensure that all of their needs are met, whether you are in a partnership or not. The objective never changes, even if the relationship does. You two have raised a healthy individual, even though you are no longer together, and you can come together during graduations, weddings, etc., with mutual trust. All of the above should be considered a successful relationship. A successful relationship, again, does not include a lifetime of pain, misery, or disappointment. Relationships should bring you joy, happiness, and pleasure. Of course, there will always be rainy days, but how you handle and deal with them will ultimately break or make the relationship. Okay, that is the ending of chapter 4. So let's get into chapter 5. Let's see how far we can get to. We'll see. Chapter 5, Dating in the New Millennium. Ooh. Never give up all your power. Before I got back into these mean dating streets, I was in a committed relationship that lasted over 6 years. Comfortable in my security, I gained over 30 pounds and was borderline of having high cholesterol. Years of sitting down at a desk at work, toppled by a lack of regular exercise, including sex, had begun to take their toll. My fiance and I had simply allowed the familiarity of everyday life and pressures at the job to break our intimate bond while destroying our bodies. We had both been in pretty good shape when we met, but now we were both thick as hell. Whew, I remember them days. Growing up, cooking was always one of my passions and a part of my personality. I loved preparing meals for my family and friends and enjoyed seeing the joy a home cooked meal brought to their faces. In this relationship, my partner did not understand how important it was for me to sit down and share a meal with him. Side note, I don't do all that cooking stuff anymore. I guess I just grew out of it. Not my thing. Anyway, oftentimes he would come home to dinner and tell me he would eat later, leaving me to dine alone. When our kids were at home, I spent weekends baking and preparing meals they would share with me, but those days had come and gone. It was now just the two of us, and things had drastically changed. After the first 2 years of being an empty nester, my primary motherly role had mostly disappeared, and it was time for some adaptations. Eventually, I left my office job and returned to film production and gig work. The work was stressful but fun, and I enjoyed the freedom of meeting exciting people. Meanwhile, at home, I began to accept that the relationship was over and it was time to move on. Unfortunately, the gig work was not consistent, and I was not earning the amount of money required to move out on my own. My then fiance said he did not care what I did outside of the home, giving me the okay to seek affection elsewhere. My character would not allow me to be the type of woman who would feel comfortable going out, seeing someone else, and then returning to sleep in our home. I was saddened that he expected this of me, and he had grown content with our current state of being. We had truly hit rock bottom. For months, the lonely nights continued that featured me eating alone and him becoming engulfed in his virtual video games. Sometimes he would go days without speaking to me when he was angry. Other times he would nitpick everything I did, and it seemed nothing was ever perfect enough in the home. If I vacuumed, he would come behind me and vacuum again. If I washed dishes, he would reorganize them. This drove me crazy, and I felt like a trapped animal, which looking back seems quite suitable since at this stage in my life, my partner had begun to treat and look at me as if I were some sort of pet. To be clear, all of my basic needs were met, but I was not looked at as a woman, lover, or asset to his life. Though no physical abuse, the mental abuse began to weigh heavy on my soul. When I would complain about the things lacking in our relationship, he would simply say most women would be happy to be where I was. After all, I was a kept woman, so that was all that mattered, right? With all of my skills, knowledge, and quite frankly, good pussy, I had been reduced to something pretty he could come home to after a grueling day at work, and I'd be there to ignore or for him to direct his frustrations upon. I soon found myself wondering if there was something wrong with me since he no longer seemed to find me attractive. This was a very lonely stage in my life, but many of my friends kept telling me I might as well stay where I was because there were simply few viable men out there, and he was a great catch. One thing's for sure, my grandma Lucinda had taught me early in life that a man was like a bus. If you miss one, another would be along soon after. I refuse to believe that ain't no good men out there theory. Honestly, in all my years of dating, I truly have never missed a beat. So Granny's advice has always rang true. Still true to this day. Holla. The final straw and what ultimately forced me to move my feet was when my ex and I were having a conversation, and the topic was what would happen if he were to die suddenly? Where would I live if he were to pass since the house that we lived in was in his name only? Now, mind you, I had put my blood, sweat, and tears into making it our home too, which included picking it out and handling all the business aspects involved with the purchase. I had coordinated and initiated all of the remodeling and upkeep and set it out. There was not an inch within his 2,000 square foot bungalow where I had not helped scrape walls, paint, or lay vinyl flooring. In the beginning, our teamwork worked well. He would pay for almost anything I wanted to make our home beautiful, and I had the freedom to decorate and change things as I saw fit. It was not uncommon for him to come home and find that I had painted an entire room in a day. But since we were never married, his assets in this home were simply not mine. Although I paid a small portion of our bills, he was the primary breadwinner and head of the household. When he would answer the question of what would happen if he passed, he simply said that if he died, the house would go to his daughter, who no longer lived with us and had a house of her own, and I would have to work something out with her to stay in the place I called home. This was the answer to a question that told me everything I needed to know about the relationship. I imagined myself growing older in a sexless, joyless relationship, only to be tossed out in the streets in my older years. I'm not sure how he thought this would be okay with me, but since we were not married, this was totally within his right. Please know that no matter how much we want to romanticize it, marriage is simply a business contract designed to protect assets. Okay. Since I had decided that the benefits of marriage would not outweigh the risks in this relationships, I had long since abandoned the idea of signing a contract. Apparently, he did not care or understand that a man who truly loves his woman would not want her to be able would want her to be able to survive without begging in the streets in the event of his demise. Since he had no intention of ensuring I was protected, it was my responsibility to protect myself. It was time to move on. Looking back, I do not regret my time in that relationship because it served my children and me well. Most of the years were happy, and he and I managed to remain friends. When we met, we needed each other to grow as people. Although I was in a less than ideal situation in the end, one thing I had learned early in my life that prepared me for that moment was to never give up all of my power. As fate would have it, my tenants would soon inform me that they were moving out of my rental home, which enabled me to prepare to move in. The ability to be able to pick up my bag and say deuces is inevitably what saved me from not missing a beat. Looking back, I could have did things a little differently, but I still do not regret leaving. Side note. Okay. So the next chapter or section is called social media and dating. Okay, we're in 19 minutes. Yeah, we're gonna keep going here. Social media and dating. As we know, social media, excuse me, as we know, social media has given us access to people we normally would never have the chance to meet in real life. Through dating apps, we can simply swipe left or right when a person grabs our attention in hopes that the feeling is mutual. We have no problem putting on a smiley face while proclaiming that we deserve to be the object of his or her affection, or at least for the time being. Historically, in the US and many other countries, men have always enjoyed the pleasure of being able to pursue multiple women at one time. It has only been most recently that women can now also indulge in such activities. Nowadays, many men and women are deciding to remain single because the risks often do not outweigh the benefits. Due to the endless amount of seeing options, no, let's say it again. Due to the endless amount of seeming out options, people these days are quick to bail out when they think things are not going the way they feel they should. When asked, here's a list of some of the challenges that people encounter while dating that make it hard for them to stay in the game. Dating too much. Some men and women will date people they know they are not compatible with or have no interest in just to be on a date. For example, dating out of boredom, loneliness, or hunger. Please stop doing that shit. Dating apps are not selective enough. Profiles do not do a thorough job of screening potential suitors for the individual. Dating apps are being used like a menu. For example, this weekend I would like to meet a muscular city boy with locks. Next week, I'll have a clean shaven country dude. This excess access is becoming problematic. I just realized my editor screwed it up. They put locks as LOCKS. Anyway, this excess access is becoming problematic, and the behavior is leading to quick emotional and sexual fixes. The woman creating a profile immediately puts herself in a position where she is an option and not a priority. Please note that we all have options, but should you really be made to feel like one? Pre-date conversations with men you meet on dating apps are often a waste of time. That first screening call could last over an hour, and then you may just have wasted time on someone you may never even meet. A lot of men are using or we're using dating apps as like therapy. So I don't do long calls anymore. A lot of people on dating sites are purely looking for someone to talk to with little to no interest in ever meeting a person. Beware, a lot of these men are lonely as fuck nowadays. Men have become passive in pursuing women. They sit back and wait for you to do the courting, but then ask you to let them lead. P.S. If he has to ask, he probably isn't capable. Weak. Men complain women are too aggressive, but then sit back and complain if the woman does not pursue them. Huh? Lack of sexual alignment is another reason. For example, he can't perform for physical reasons, simply lacks the equipment needed, or he is into some kinky shit you aren't into. Number 10, they lie about height, weight, income, everything. I should have told y'all the numbers, whatever. Number 11, burnt out on dating and now looking at everyone like they are the same, self sabotage. With all these challenges and more, it's a miracle that two people ever come together long enough to develop a relationship, get married, and stay married. The convenience of finding someone in your community who is looking for a romantic partner without having all the guesswork that used to take place when people met in person has, as mentioned previously, commodified our relationships. The problem has arisen so swiftly that getting people back on track will take some serious damage control. The first step is to get out of the fast food dating scene and develop your own list of detailed standards and requirements. Raising the bar. It is no secret that there is a gender imbalance among African Americans in terms of finding a suitable mate. Black men nowadays will outright tell you that they are a catch simply because they are heterosexual black males who has not, oh, wait a minute, I gotta say this right. Black men nowadays will outright tell you they are a catch simply because they are a heterosexual black male who has not been in prison. Hell, even the ones who have been in the slammer for a spell will try and convince you that they are the prize. I'm not saying that prison automatically eliminates someone from being a man of quality. I know some very honorable black men who any woman would be lucky to call their own who have been incarcerated. But do that, but do the aforementioned qualities automatically make a man a great catch? I think not. In this day and age, we definitely need to aim much higher than that. Living in the HP. Andrea lived in a small town in Metro Detroit called HP, which is about a 3-mile radius. She'd been born and raised in the HP, and at 50 years old, she never even dated a man outside her community. She had settled into a life of long-term, on and off again relationships with men she had grown up with. Any man who was not similar to the guys Andrea knew from her hood simply did not appeal to her. Yet she wondered why she would never develop a healthy, monogamous relationship with these dudes. Most women in her hood were pretty similar to Andrea, and the neighborhood fellas just rotated them throughout the decades. The ladies were usually somewhat educated, held good jobs, and had some sort of security. On the other hand, the men who had never left the community rarely kept a steady job, were in and out of prison, and had multiple children with different women. In comparison, the women usually only had a few children by the same man, and it was rare to see multiple baby daddies in these familial units. So, in actuality, the men were causing the broken homes, broken heart syndrome, and simply planting their seeds wherever they could lay their heads, usually while they were on vacation from the penitentiary. Because of the circumstances in her community, Andrea often complained that all men were dogs, but really, she had fallen into the trap of thinking all men were the same because she was attracted to the same type of men. She looked for familiarity in a mate because it made her feel comfortable. She longed to be treated like the popular girl she was in high school because, in actuality, she had never really truly evolved. She never bothered looking outside her comfort zone, neighborhood, or community and wondered why she kept yielding the same results. As we know, the unknown can be scary, especially when you are used to operating in a way where you pretty much know what to expect. Because of her past experiences, because her past experiences taught her to keep her expectations low, she condemned herself to a lifetime of singleness or on and off again relationships. Staying in one's comfort zone is a mistake too many of us make. Sometimes we are easily turned off by men that we say are not our type, but we get mistreated by the ones who are. A type should have more to do with your basic level of compatibility, his character, and his ambition than his swag, reputations, pockets, or familiarity. Some believe that the bar has been set so low that women accept less than what they deserve merely because they have very little to choose from. At this point, I want you to intentionally and strategically add to your well thought out life plan and ensure you're not wasting time dating men who are not on your level. Keep in mind that you will most likely need to venture outside of your comfort zone, which may mean dating outside of your hometown, state, and as a last result, your race. In case you are still wondering, did I mean to say your level earlier? Why, yes, I did. You may be one of those very accomplished women who really has her shit together and understands that the odds are severely stacked against the black male in this country. Many of us grew up witnessing our male family members and friends being targeted by the police, experiencing racism on the job, locked up in prisons for decades for petty crimes, or many other injustices we experience in our everyday lives. But at some point, a spade is still a spade. Yes, all of these things affect how we view the males in our communities and how we want to protect and love them. Black women have always been willing to embrace a man down on his luck because we saw potential, but our real hope was that these men would love, appreciate, and choose us in return. Most men, on the other hand, usually do not operate that way. It is no secret that our men, no matter their own economic status, will seek out the highest quality black woman because there is always a chance that she will oblige simply because there are not enough eligible black men to choose from. Before you go out and become a wait a minute. Before you go out and become or continue to be a Captain Save-A-Ho, consider this. A man who has nothing to lose will make you lose everything. When dealing with a man of a lower caliber, you must first understand that sometimes it is his own fault. Yes, there are exceptions to these rules, including systemic racism, mass incarceration, and increasing unemployment. But for the most part, we can choose the type of person we want to be and curate the type of life we want. It just takes strategy, time, hard work, and planning. Often, the type of man you decide to spend your time with can come down to a matter of life and death, so choose wisely. Okay, we are going to stop because this one is 28 minutes in, and we will pick up again. I think I'm going to pick up again tomorrow. Yeah, let's do that tomorrow, October 14th. So that is all for today or tonight. Our next section is gaining and recognizing your power. Again, this book is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and the Madu bookstore in Atlanta. You can pick up a copy there. It's that's a really easy read. And my name is Tinisha D.Brugnone. I am your author. Hope you enjoyed this session, and we will continue on October 14th. Have a good evening.